Good morning, everybody. Looks like we have a few people still coming in. Thank you for coming today. This is going to be charting on the Nadex platform, and we will jump right on into this real quickly here. So, yeah, so see, we have a few more people coming in, so I'll leave the disclaimer on before we jump fully into everything here. But as the name of the webinar suggests, this is going to be charting on the Nadex platform. We're going to go over a lot of the charting functionality, do a little bit on technical analysis as well. But right now, what you have in front of your eyes is going to be the disclaimer that we put in front of every single webinar and video that we do at Nadex. Very basically, I will leave it up here for a second so you can read through it, but what it says is don't trade with money that you really need, because trading is inherently risky, both on Nadex and anywhere. Any money you put up anywhere is going to be at risk. And so you want to be trading with that discretionary income. You do not want to be trading with money you need for rent, for food, for anything else you really need it for. It should be with, again, that discretionary income, because again, all trading does involve risk. The other point on this wonderful disclaimer is going to be that none of what I'm going to be saying today is going to be a recommendation on what to go out and trade, not a recommendation to buy or sell any of the instruments on Nadex, and we'll be placing some trades on the platform just to show the functionality of the charting. But I will be placing them basically at random. I will not be placing them because I think they're good things to trade on, so definitely don't copy anything that I'm doing, that I'm trading. I'll leave this one more second. I see we still have some more people coming in, so I'll give one more second for people to get in here. I'm gonna drink some more coffee, of course. So as we do jump on in, if you do have any questions, I do always have the questions over here on my second screen over on the side. So throw them in if you have any questions throughout the webinar. I will get to them as they come in, and as we get to a good stopping point to talk through any questions, anything like that. All right, so let's get off this disclaimer page. Now you probably have two pictures of my face on your screen, which is, just a brilliant thing. Just a little bit about me, though. I've been working at Nadex since 2017, so about 5 years now. And the last 4 or so years, I've been heavily focused on our products and our platforms. So all of our new products that we've put out, as well as all of the existing products, kind of changes that we've made over the years. And especially probably one of the first things I did when I was in this role was working on building this new platform that we have now. That's no longer really new. It's been out for a couple of years, but I do love doing these more platform and chart based webinars, just because I was around when we were figuring out how to display everything, and hopefully I can provide some insight and answer some questions on why certain things look the way they do, how to actually go through the functionality and things like that. And just a little bit about my actual trading experience. I have been trading since basically I was old enough to open a trading account about 12 years ago now. Actually, probably even longer. But yeah, I mostly trade equity options. I do trade a fair bit of other things, but yeah, generally going to be those equity options, and don't trade any binary options on our live platform, unfortunately, because I cannot. No Nadex employee actually trades on the platform itself, but I do trade on demo quite a bit. So if you are trading on demo, you might be trading against me, but if you are on live, you're never trading against a Nadex employee. All right, that's enough about me and having the double picture on screen. Let's get on over to our agenda today. So this is just super short. We're going to spend basically the entirety of the webinar in the platform itself. I think that's the most effective way to teach this sort of thing. So we're really, the vast majority of the webinar, we're going to be going through just the functionality, how to actually get around, put things on your charts, and yeah, how to figure out how to put things on your charts, how to maneuver the charts and use them in the best way possible on Nadex. I will, however, at the end do a very brief explanation of both EMA and RSI, that exponential moving average and the relative strength index indicator. It's not going to be the most in-depth thing in the world, but I do want to give some explanation of technical analysis. It's generally at the very end with whatever kind of remaining time that I haven't taken up by droning on about all of the features that we have. So with that in mind, without further ado, let's jump over to the platform itself. So let me pull up There we go. I have my Nadex login. If you don't know how to get here, basically you just go to nadex.com. You're going to hit the login at the top right-hand corner of the screen, and it's going to give you get you to this login page. So I am going to log into my demo account. I like Nadex. And here we go. Okay, so we got the beautiful platform up in front of us. You will notice again, obviously, this area where the candlesticks came in when we first opened it up. That's going to be where we're focusing on primarily today, because that is going to be where the chart actually lives. To get a chart up in that area, you're just going to want to pull up any contract that you want to go ahead and trade. So let's do, what do we want to do today? We'll do an index today. I'm feeling like doing an indice, and we always do euro dollar. Let's do Wall Street 30. Let's see how the Wall Street 30s are looking. All right, we got a pretty good pricing. So I'm just going to do Wall Street 30 2 hours. And if you haven't come to any of the other platform webinars, basically all I'm doing here is I'm clicking into the binary options. I'm going down. I'm choosing the duration, the market, and then the duration, the expiry that I actually want to trade. So I went down to find Wall Street 30 under binary options, and now I have this list of under the 2 hour contracts, this list of different strike prices that I can go in and select. And to get a chart up, you either want to click on directly on the strike price or the buy or sell. Either way is going to bring up both the deal ticket and the chart itself. So if we go ahead, let's do one that's sitting right around, I don't know, this 33,788 looks pretty good. We're sitting right around that midpoint. It is a little bit, maybe I'll try a euro dollar, just might look a little bit better for euro dollar. Always just looks good on charts. I don't know why. They look about the exact same. So if I zoom in a little bit, I can see a little bit more here. And I'm actually going to take off some of these strikes. So as you see, when you first click on and into the platform itself, or into the, sorry, bringing up the chart, you get both the chart that pops up in the middle of the screen and the deal ticket that pops up on the right-hand side. Now, my chart right now is super messy, as you can see. You can't see a lot of the actual charting, and there's a lot of the strike prices overlaid. So really quickly, and I'll show you how to do this, I'm going to try to make this chart a little bit more usable for me just right off the bat. So first of all, you can drop away these side panels, and that's going to make it a lot easier, give your chart a lot more room if you want to look at just the chart itself. So if I go down here to this bottom sort of left-hand corner, I have this hide with the double arrows. I can click that. I got a little more room on my chart now, and if I click these double arrows as well, I can again drop that away. And now my chart looks at least a little bit better. Let's see if I can't. I'm just trying to do something where the strike, okay. Well, actually, at least for this example, I'm gonna actually turn these strikes off. So I will show you how to do this a little bit later in the webinar, but for right now, we're just gonna look at the one strike that we have here. And yeah, it's gonna be hard to fit this this chart all on the same screen anyway, just because of how volatile this market has been. As you can see, we have a massive uptick about, I'm not sure, this was last night, yesterday? Yeah, yesterday morning. And then we have a fairly flat market, and then a pretty big downtrend this morning. So been some wild markets, not even this week, the last few weeks. So we have our chart up. We have it up nice right in the middle of the screen, and we have our deal ticket up on the right-hand side as well. I'm actually going to drop away the deal ticket too, just for until we actually need to place a trade on this. But for right now, so if you click this little hide button as well, you can drop that away, and now I have a much bigger area to work with my charting. I do have the first question of the day coming through. It's when does Nadex plan on launching cryptocurrencies live and have some training introduction videos? So it is in the works. Is all I can say at this point, is in the works. Hopefully, I cannot give an actual date, but I can say that I'm on the team that we're working to bring those cryptocurrency products live, and probably sooner than you think. I'm really excited about it, and you know, you heard it here first. We do plan to actually put those cryptocurrency products on the live environment fairly soon. I cannot give an actual date yet. However, check back, because it's yeah, we'll have them up fairly soon. And when we do launch this, we will have some training introduction videos. I'll probably be doing a webinar on those as well. So good question because I'm quite excited about those new products. Actually getting into the charting itself here on the screen, there's a couple different ways that you're going to be able to interact with almost everything on the chart itself. There's either the top left-hand corner right up here. This is going to be where you can find everything in the menu, either on the top left-hand corner or right-clicking. Right-clicking on the chart itself is going to bring up a menu that is going to allow you to do almost everything that you could do from that top left-hand corner. One thing you do need to do from the top left-hand menu is selecting your intervals. So these are going to be the intervals of your candlesticks. Basically, it's just going to be how much time is each of these candlesticks showing. So right now, each of these candlesticks represents a 30-minute period of time. And if we look down, we can see, okay, this is Thursday, March 3rd at 10, and this one should be Thursday, March 3rd at 10:30. So each of these is going to be a 30-minute candlestick. I just choose 30 minutes because actually probably if I was trading this, I'd maybe choose like 5 minutes because this is a 2-hour contract, right? So often you will want to choose, when you're trading a shorter duration contract, you might want to choose a shorter duration candlestick so you can see kind of you can get an idea of the movements a little bit a shorter period. While if you're trading, a weekly contract or something a little bit longer, a longer period candlestick might be better so you can see, an overall movement of what's going on in the market at a little bit wider range. But for this, I have my 5-minute candlesticks chosen. So you can go in here, you can choose any of these all the way from a tick all the way up to 1 day. And you can choose them all from that top left, and you can also do some hotkeys. And you'll see throughout this webinar, I really do like the hotkeys that the charts provide. And so if I actually just start typing in here, I can type in, let's say I want to do 15. Oops, I have to be selected. 15. And then it will just kind of come up here in the middle. It's a little bit hard to see because I have the dark mode on. But you can see I've typed in 15 here, and if I hit enter, and now it's has changed my candlesticks to 15 minutes, right? I can do one D. That's going to change it to a daily. I can do 1T. I know again this is hard to see, but you can see there I'm typing in 1T. That's going to get me down to the tick chart. If you are confused by where I'm getting these numbers from that I'm using for hotkeys, they are here. So if you look at these very small kind of grayed out little numbers, and then up here we have like 1 hour, 1H, right? That's going to be kind of a reminder for what the actual hotkeys are. So you can actually go in, and if you are ever unsure about what the hotkeys are, but you actually want to use them, you can go in and say, oh, okay, if I want 10 minutes, I just start typing in 10. There's no sort of minute connotation I need to do, but if I want to do 3 hours, I'm going to need to do 3H for that. So I can type in 3H, enter. It's going to give me nice 3-hour candlesticks. But just for this, I'm going to go back to that, to the 5-minute candlesticks. I think it looks better for what we're doing here currently. So that's going to be how you change the actual interval and duration of those candlesticks. The next thing over here, going from sort of left to right across that top left-hand menu, is going to be a selector of how long you actually want to show on the chart itself. So if I want to see 1 week worth of data, I can click on that. Now remember that is basically, so if I go back here, this is going to be showing last Thursday, February 24th, and today is Thursday, the March 3rd, so you have about a week of data shown there. One thing to remember though, if you do select this, it is going to change the interval, the candlestick interval, because it has to fit them all on the screen, right? So I'm just going to kind of go back to 5 minutes and zoom back in a little bit, but that's going to be how you just select, say, give me 1 day worth of data, 1 week worth of data, right? 1 month worth of data, get it up there really quick on the screen. I have a question. What is the hotkey? Oh, okay, yeah, maybe I didn't explain that too well. So a hotkey basically is, it's not just in trading, right? It's really in any computer. I started learning it from like computer gaming when I was really young, but very basically it's just, so a lot of times you're clicking around on things on the internet. Instead of doing that, where you have to like maybe move your mouse all the way, so every time I change the candlestick, I might be over here and I have to move the mouse up here, click it, come back over here, select a new strike, move it up, click it. Instead of doing that, you can just start typing on your keyboard, and you could say 5. And so I can still have my mouse over here, right? I don't have to like go back and forth, and I can just say 5, enter, and it's going to change it for me without actually having to, go back. So that's what a hotkey is, right? It's going to be something you could do on your keyboard, and just a key that you can remember what it is, and once you get it down, you can remember. But there are these little reminders, and I'll show you there are other hotkeys you can do as well on the chart itself. And so that's what a hotkey is basically. It's just something you can hit on your keyboard, and it's gonna do a functionality maybe a little bit quicker or without the need to move your mouse around the screen. So like if I want to have my mouse on the deal ticket and not move that, but I want to see what a 15-minute candle is, I can, do this and not have to move off the deal ticket basically. So just kind of they're faster ways when you actually learn them, when you get them down, they're faster ways to maneuver and get through the platform, or really any sort of any sort of platform or game, or there's a lot of things that use hotkeys. So for the rest of these, for the rest of the functionality, I'm actually going to be using the right click menu, just because that's what I use. But remember that you are actually going to be able to get through all the functionality using the top left corner as well. I just prefer the right hand one because I actually don't have to go back and forth all the time. I can just hit the right click, bring the menu up, right? So first thing we have in our sort of right click menu here, we have our indicators. This is going to be where you find all of the indicators that you can place on the chart itself. So we have, as you can see, a very large number of indicators that you can actually place on here. Not all of them, but I think we have a pretty good selection. One thing I really like about our indicator selector screen here is because, so I don't always, I trade quite a bit, and I know the indicators that I like, and I have those down, but I don't know every indicator, off the top of my head really well. So if for example, I don't know what a detrended price oscillator is, I can hover over this little information bubble, and I can say, okay, the detrended price oscillator attempts to filter out long-term price trends in order to highlight the underlying cycle price, right? So you can really quickly and easily hover over the information panel, get a little bit, at least the very basic level of what these indicators are before you actually go ahead and place them on the chart itself. So obviously it's not going to be the end all be all of information. You can always go to Google and Google a little bit more, but that's going to be how you actually figure out a little bit more, and then you just select them, the actual indicator itself, to get that to come up on the screen in front of you. So I'm going to put on a couple indicators. I'm going to put one on that I have on the bottom here, the price oscillator. I have that across the bottom, so that's one of the ones that sort of comes up below. And then I'm going to put one that's overlaid on the chart itself. Let's do some Bollinger Bands here. Bollinger Bands here are quite popular. So we have a couple of indicators on the chart now. We have our Bollinger Bands. We have our price oscillator on the bottom. I do have a All right, I will get to these. I see a couple questions coming in. I'll get to them in 1 second. I want to get through sort of telling how you actually change some of the functionality of the indicators. So right now we have the default settings for both of these indicators on here. But if you actually want to go ahead and change them, you can change a lot about every indicator that you have, right? So the way you're going to be able to do that is actually going to this little panel here. So if you see it says BOLL, Bollinger Bands is what that stands for, 22. If I actually click on that, that's going to bring up a panel. That's going to allow me to go ahead and change the different aspects of the indicator, right? So if the default for Bollinger Bands is going to be a 20 period with a 2 standard deviation. Let's say that I want to look back at, 25 periods and a 4 standard deviation, right? So I can do 25, actually let's do 20, 26 is actually one that people use sometimes, and I can do a 4 period standard deviation. I can tell you once I click, yeah, there we go. It's going to make it very, very wide on that, really spread those bands apart. But I can also do things like I can change, I can remove or put on the upper or lower limits, but I can also change the color. So if I really, if I like my Bollinger Bands to be blue, and I like my, moving average to be purple, I can go in and I can change all these colors to really set up the chart how I like to do it. So yeah, you can change your period here, your standard deviation, and same thing for the indicators that go below the charts. It's just going to be sort of here instead of here, right? So this is the Bollinger Bands, this is the price oscillator. And if you click on that, again, you're going to be able to change the periods. You can change this to a dotted line, as you can see on the bottom. You can change the lines to be thicker. So you can really customize it, make it how you want to be, change the periods that you want to look at, and get a better handling on setting up the indicators exactly how you want to set them up and in a way that's the best for your trading strategy. And if you want to take them off, so you can remove the indicators just by clicking on this little X itself. So if I just click on this X, that's going to knock that out. If I click on the X here on the Bollinger Bands, it'll knock that out as well. I can also just go to my indicators and deselect it from there as well. So a couple of different ways to actually put on those indicators, take them off. I will leave, let's leave, I don't know, let's leave MACD on, or let's just leave a moving average on so we have something interesting to look at while we go through the remainder of the webinar here. All right, so I do have a couple questions that came in while I was doing that long-winded explanation of how to set up indicators. Where can we find detailed trading on the chart and indicator? So this is going to be the detailed trading on the chart itself. On the indicators, I will do a bit of at the end of this webinar, I am going to do a bit on exponential moving average, and I'm going to do a bit on relative strength index. So those are two indicators that I think are a little bit more basic, but the primarily not basic, but a little bit maybe easier to understand quickly. But primarily this webinar is going to be just on the actual functionality of the charts itself. We do have some learning articles on nadex.com. If you go in, search your indicator, you can go in those search bar, search the indicator that you want to know a little bit more about. We have some videos on them. I don't think we have them on every single one. If we don't, you can always Google as well. But for the actual chart functionality, I would say this is probably the best or most in-depth, at least related to Nadex on our specific chart functionality is this webinar that you're in right now. So you're in luck. Nadex charts are not available during weekend and off hours. Would it be possible to have the charts available then, as it would help in doing market analysis? Yes, and I think I might remember your name from other Nadex charting webinars. And yes, if you have asked this question before, or I've seen this question come up quite a bit in the past. It's something that we've had on our roadmap for quite a while to do. So the question is basically, when are you going to have charting over the weekend or in the down period? Because currently we don't have that. It's close. So we've been working on that's been on the roadmap for quite a while, and we have it sort of built. We're working out the kinks and we're doing the testing. So it should be soon. I think there's a little bit more work we have to do because we did some testing. There were some bugs, so we have to go do some bug fixing. But I can't give an exact date, but it's finally getting close. So I know that's something that's really needed, and it's something that I want to, because if I'm on the weekend and I want to jump on our platform and do a bit of analysis, well, I can't do that either right now. So it's coming soon, and we are working on it. But I don't have an exact date yet. All right, so moving on, we did our indicators here, and we can move on down to our next little section. It's going to be the drawings. The drawings are pretty similar to the indicators. So if I go down here, you're going to have very much similar. You have this little information bubble. You see an arrow could highlight specific points on the charts. Probably you don't need it for an arrow, but for something like maybe an Elliott wave, if you don't know what that is, you can hover over and see what an Elliott wave is. So if we can go get our Gann fan, we can select that. So basically you just want to click on your actual drawing itself, and you can click, and there we go. We have our Gann fan on here. This is really probably not how you actually draw this on a chart, but just for quickness sake, I'm just throwing a couple of drawings on here, right? So we have our Gann fan. We can put an arrow pointing here. There's a lot of different drawings you can actually put on here. A couple actual interesting functionality though. So you can actually put this drawing toolbar on here. So at the top, this show drawing toolbar. If you click that, you're going to get this little drawing bar down here in the bottom left-hand corner of your chart. And now instead of actually having to right click all the time and go in here, if you do draw on your charts a lot, you can just select from right here. And, is the channel? No, that's the measure tool. You can select I think these are Fibonacci levels. Yeah. So you can select your Fibonacci levels here, put those on directly from the chart itself. So this is going to be your drawing toolbar, pretty easy to get in there, actually use, draw things on here. And if you actually want to delete these drawings, you can always go in and you can delete all drawings. So if I click that, all the drawings are gone. You can also undo that. But I actually do want to delete these drawings. So this chart is looking quite messy currently. So I'm going to go ahead and delete those. There is one other little bit of functionality in here that I think is overlooked a lot. And so if I go in and click in my drawings, I have this option here. It says snap to HLOC prices. Basically what this does is, and I can sort of show it if I zoom in, I'll select an arrow. And if I zoom, I can't zoom while I have that selected. I zoom in super close here. I can select like an arrow, and if you see, it's sort of as I move my cursor over, I don't know if you can really see that, but it's sort of it's snapping to the different parts of the candlestick, and so basically it just helps you actually like draw directly onto a part of the candlestick, right? We can do it with if we just have a line here, right? So it helps you snap directly onto the parts of the candlestick. If I go ahead and I turn this off, it's no longer actually going to do that little snapping. So now we can see, I can get close to it, but it doesn't actually necessarily snap directly to the candlestick itself. So that's just what this little bar here means, snap to HLOC pricing. I generally just keep it on. Honestly, a lot of times you might not even be able to notice it, but I think it does help you with the drawings because it helps you snap directly to what you kind of want to be looking at. And always you can select on the individual drawing itself and sort of drag it around, and you can hit the delete key too. So you can hit the delete key to delete your drawings off as well. So that's going to be most of what we have for drawings here. Yeah, I think that's everything. There obviously are a lot more different drawings you can do, but I think a lot of them are fairly self-explanatory. And if you don't know what they are, again, we do have this little information bubble. I think I have another question here. I just wanted to find out, do Nadex perhaps have some signal options service for traders? No. So Nadex does not provide any signal services itself. Because we are an exchange, right? We don't really provide anything of that. I know there are some signal service providers out there. There aren't any that we partner with, and there aren't any I can really recommend. Even if there were some that I really liked, I couldn't, as an employee of the exchange, recommend them anyway. So I think there are signal providers out there, but yeah, Nadex itself does not provide any, and Nadex itself does not, endorse any signal providers. Yeah. All right, so moving on down here through our nice chart, we have our types. So these are just going to be the different types of chart types that you can actually choose. So candlestick's always going to be your default chart type. As you move on down, we have our Heikin-Ashi candles. So a Heikin-Ashi is going to be somewhat similar, as you can tell, to your general candlestick charts. Very basically what Heikin-Ashi does is instead of taking the absolute high-low open close, it sort of gives you an average high-low open and close of periods. And what that does, as you can probably tell, is it kind of smooths out the candle, so it's not quite as choppy. So if we go back to candlesticks, you can see there's a lot of choppiness up down with the actual period, because it's actually telling you over a 5-minute period, did it close higher or did it close lower? That's going to result in a red or a green candle, right? But the Heikin-Ashi does give you that more sort of smoothed out, averaged out, longer uptrends and longer downtrends in the market. If you do want to learn more about Heikin-Ashi, because that's kind of a very basic explanation of it, I think we do have an explanation of it on the Nadex site if you just search Heikin-Ashi on there. Going down, we have our line, fairly self-explanatory. It's a line chart. I'm not really sure if much more can be said about the line chart. Um, we have our HLOC. HLOC is going to give a lot of very similar data to what the general candlestick chart gives you. It's sort of just a different way of looking at the usual candlestick charts. And some people like it, I think, because you sort of have the start of the period facing left, the end of the period facing right, and so you sort of have maybe a little bit easier way to see what's going on in the market, right? But very basically, it still gives you the high, the low, the open, and the close, just like a regular candlestick is going to give you. And then we have our mountain chart. The mountain chart's basically just a line chart with a shaded underneath. Pretty self-explanatory. I'm going to go back and I'm going to use the normal candlesticks for the remainder of the webinar here. Moving on, we have our price. So this section is, I would generally just keep this on last traded. Unless you really, I will show you obviously what these do. So let me actually pull up a deal ticket here. So, and I'll tell you why that I think most people should just keep it to last traded. Last traded should be the default. Should be the default when you first open up an account at Nadex for this functionality. So what it's basically saying is, right, the price it's showing you is the last traded price in the underlying market. And that fundamentally is going to be the price that at expiration is going to be the settlement price, right? I mean, it is an indicative price that we are displaying on the front end, but really what you want to be looking at and what you want to be trading on is going to be that last traded price from the underlying market that's being displayed. Now, you can go and say ask, and what that's going to do, and you might be able to see it just a little bit here, it's now, instead of giving the last traded price, it's just giving the ask price. So it's just giving, you know, in sort of the bid ask of the underlying market, it's only giving that ask price. You can go and you can select the bid price as well. It's only going to give you the bid price. And then if you select the bid price, it's only going to give you that midpoint pricing. Now, I did that really quick and you probably didn't even notice any changes, right? But what will happen is, if I zoom in here, what will happen if you notice, so if you look right here and try to look right here at this indicative price sort of at the same time, I know it's a little bit hard to see that maybe, but you'll notice those don't match up anymore, right? They're pretty close, but they're not one-to-one. They're not really matching. And also, what's going on in the US 500? Wow, this is a very green candle. You're just shooting through the ceiling here. But as you can see, right, the indicative price is not matching one-to-one with the price shown on the chart right now. Why is that happening? Well, because the indicative price, what the indicative price is showing is going to be the last traded price. What you have selected for the chart to show is the ask price, right? So if I move it back to the last traded, it should again go back to really being pretty much one-to-one, and there might be a little bit of delay, especially when markets are moving super fast, but really it should be pretty much one-to-one with what you're seeing here, right? With this indicative price, and it is going to be a little bit off because these markets are super volatile right now while it's sort of catching up to each other. But very generally, the last traded is going to be what is going to be the most accurate to the indicative price. It's going to be the most accurate to what the settlement price at the end of the contract is going to be, and so it's generally going to be the best price to actually trade on and go off of. So if you are ever having, you know, if you're ever looking at your chart and you're saying this doesn't match up, why? What am I seeing here? Why does my chart price not match with my deal ticket indicative price? Well, it's probably because the last traded price is not the selected price on the market. Now, I know I just spent a while saying why you shouldn't probably do that unless you really have a reason. There are reasons you would want to see the ask and the bid of the underlying market. One of those reasons you might want to do that is when you're using the quick charts. And so I'm going to kind of switch gears and go over and show you the quick charts real quick here. So the quick charts on Nadex. So when you're looking at this chart right here, right, you're seeing a chart of the underlying market. You're seeing a chart of what the US 500 contract is doing. Really, it's the underlying market for this is the CME S&P E-mini contract. So that's basically what you're seeing here. It's the underlying price. You can switch the chart to actually give you a view of the price of the asset itself. So a price of the binary option that you're actually trading, that strike price. The way you do that, and that's what we call a quick chart. The way you do that, so if you see this top right hand little hamburger menu at the top right, it's the three vertical lines. We call it a hamburger menu. Kind of looks like a hamburger, right? You get your bread and your buns. Um, if you go to switch to quick chart right here on this drop down, now this is going to switch over, and it's these candles are a little bit bigger, but that's because we're only on a 2-hour candle, so we only have this contract only started about half an hour ago, so we only have not too many candlesticks here. If we got a 1 minute, we can see. But what you're seeing here now is instead of the price of the underlying being charted, this is now the price of the binary option itself, right? So you can see here, this is actually showing, and I think this is the midpoint. Yeah, this is showing the midpoint price. So we have 74 on one side, 80 on the other side. This is the midpoint price of this strike binary option, right? So it's the 43.71 at 2 p.m. expiration. And so going in here, you can actually see the price history for what's been happening with this specific binary option, as opposed to seeing the price history of the underlying market. And why this sort of ties into the whole conversation about using the last traded versus the ask price, the bid price, is because this is maybe a time when you want to use the ask price, right? So if I want to see only the ask, well, now I'm actually seeing the buy price. So this is actually literally a chart for this binary option of every minute what the buy price has been ever since this was listed at at noon Eastern time, right? So if I want to go back and see, okay, at noon Eastern when this was listed, this first candle, the buy price was 48, and now it's all the way up to $78, right? So you'll see it's 1-to-1 moving with the buy price here. I can go and I can select the bid, and that's going to 1-to-1 move with this sell price here as well. So you can see here the quick chart. It is a really cool functionality. It actually does allow you to see the price history of the actual option itself that you're trading, as opposed to the underlying market that you're trading on, which can be super helpful. And you can actually see the price history of the ask, the buy side or the sell side, respectively. So that's a situation where you might want to choose the bid or the ask. To get back over to the underlying market, you click in here and you can switch to the default chart again, and you'll switch back to the default chart here. So I'm going to go back to 5 minutes. Now, do remember, I switched this to the ask on the other side. This is still, or I'm sorry, I was on the bid on the other side. This is still going to be selected bid. So just remember that you did that, and probably switch it back to last traded when you get over to the default chart. That's what I try to do, is switch it back over to that functionality there. So we do have another question coming in here. Has Nadex considered possibly adding some additional commodities like corn, wheat, sugar, copper? So some of those we had, and some of those we do still have, just in very like we don't have them in everything. So I think we actually do have call spreads in corn. No, we don't. Maybe we don't have. I think actually we did. We did just get rid of the last corn and copper contracts. So sort of a quick answer to this is we are always looking at different underlying markets that we can put in. Some of them we do end up taking out just because they are very little traded. We had copper contracts, we had corn contracts, and almost no one ever traded them. And so we actually did end up removing those. Now we do always look at them, and if we have a lot of people that come in that really want them, we bring them back. So we are always looking, at what contracts make sense for us to offer, what contracts don't really make that much sense for us to actually offer. It's sort of the best answer I can give you on that. I will say right now we're not really heavily looking on adding more commodities, just because right now with the gold, silver, oil, nat gas, those four that we have on most of the contracts, those are and have traditionally been people really like trading those. We get a lot of volume through those, and so that's why we keep those on. But it is something that we look at. We periodically review. We go through different new markets. We say, does this make sense? Because there is some amount of work that needs to be done basically to have these markets up. And we always want to have as many markets up for you to trade, right? I mean, we have tons of different underlying markets and a lot of different asset classes. However, it is always a question of how feasible is this for us to actually put up and provide and do. So, if we have a lot more people coming in that really like trading commodities that are asking for copper, sugar contracts, and I'll definitely note this that people are asking for these. Then sometimes we bring them back. And for stuff like corn and wheat, actually, we do have an event contract that we put up. Do a little plug here. We have not wheat, but we do have soybean yields and corn yields. So these are based off the WASDE contract. And so really quickly, event contracts, they're very much just sort of, will this number be above or below? I mean, it's the same as all other binaries. There's just no kind of moving underlying, right? And it's just a individual, report that comes out. And so we do have these up right now. This is a monthly contract that comes up, or it comes out once a month. We have corn yields, we have soybean yields. We also have things like, I think we'll have a CPI contract that goes live tomorrow and then expires when CPI comes out sometime next week. So we have some interesting ways to trade those as well. Some different markets, but yeah, I know that was sort of a very long answer to maybe somewhat shorter questions you would ask, but I like to go into this stuff. So we will go back and we'll pull up our US 500 contract again just to keep doing this. So I'm going to pull our chart back up here. All right, where were we in our charting here? So we got through the price. Let's go down. We have our scale here. And I do want to make sure we get through this because I do want to make sure we get to talk at least a little bit about exponential moving average and that relative strength index at the end here. So now we have scale. Scale, the default for this, I think I had this set. The default for this when you actually open up an account is going to be linear, and you can also change it to percentage. Now, what is this? What does that mean? Well, it refers to the numbers that are along the right-hand side here that I'm moving up and down. So as you can see right now, those numbers on the right-hand side of the screen, they are, it's 4420, 4410, 4400. They're sort of absolute numbers of the US 500, or at least the S&P E-mini, right? So it's the absolute numbers of the US 500. You can actually change that. If you go over to percentage, this is going to give you can see it's changed from these absolute numbers to actually a percentage. And now what are these percentages showing? Well, you can see you can see right here, I'm kind of circling over it. It is 0%. If we sort of track all the way back, we can see that this 0% lines up with the first candlestick that's being shown on the chart. And it's always going to sort of, I can zoom in, I can zoom out, and you can see this 0%. It's always going to line up with the very first candlestick that's being shown on the chart. So I like keeping it on percentage just because for me, I view it as a really easy way to super quickly see how much percentage has moved in the lifetime of the chart I'm looking at. So I can really easily see right here, we're almost down 1% from this point, right? Because I can see right here, we're about between -1% and -0.75, so maybe the 0.85% or something right there. But I can really, really quickly get an idea of the percentage market change that's occurred since the very first candlestick that I'm looking at, kind of over the entirety of the candles that I have on the screen in front of me. So I view that as really useful. But the linear can also be really useful as well. You can actually see linearly, up here we are at near 4420, now we're near 4380, 4370, right? So that's going to be what this scale is between linear and percentage. Moving on, now we have this show screen. So we're actually going to get back into some hotkeys here, my favorite thing. But before we do that, we do have a couple different things on the show button. So first we have our HLOC data. All of these are selected right now, which basically means all of them have been showing, or pretty much all of them have been showing throughout the duration of while I've been talking. So first of all, the HLOC data, if I deselect that, well, the HLOC data, if you see this little box that's following my cursor around, the one that says price, highest, lowest, open, close, change, that's going to be what that HLOC data refers to. So if you want to turn that off, you can click that, and you can see that box isn't here anymore. And you can turn it back on. So I like having it. It gives you more data on, you can hover kind of near or whichever candlestick that you have selected. It's going to give you the highest, the lowest, the open, the close, and the absolute change of what's happening in that candlestick itself. So just a little bit of information blurb that follows your cursor around, basically. Moving on here, we have our drawings. So this is just going to be showing and hiding the drawings that you have on the platform. Pretty self-explanatory. Same thing with indicators, showing and hiding the indicators. If you ever can't find your indicators or your drawings, go into the show button or the show panel, and you should be able to find those there. Now we get into some more fun hotkeys. So before we do some hotkeys, let's put a position on really quick. So I'm going to do a couple things here. I am going to put on I'm going to do a market order and just get into a position just randomly, right? I don't really care what it is, but you can see though, when I actually get into a position here, so I have an open position, I can see the open position represented on the chart itself. So I see here, this is my open position. If I go like this, you can see it down here as well. So I have, it's +1, so that's I'm on the buy side. Above, again, buy side, 4375.0, that's going to be the strike that I need to be above. And I can also see that I'm, this is red right now. If I was positive, if I was if I was positive making a profit, it would be green. Right now it's negative, so it's red, and I can see I'm negative about $253 in the red there in a loss. Also, we have, so let's click a different. If I click down here, I'm going to get into a working order just super quick. And if you're unsure about what I'm doing with these working orders, you can always come to, I do platform webinars. I do a webinar every Thursday, so check that for a platform webinar if you're unsure what I'm actually doing here. But you can see I have a working order here now. And so when you have your working order on the platform, it's going to be this little gray bar. So if you have a working order that hasn't been filled, it's going to be showing on the platform with this little gray bar here, +1 above 4367. And if I go back here, we have our actual open position that's always going to be either red or green, depending on if I'm in the profit or if I'm in the loss, if I'm in the red, right? So the reason that I bring both of these up right now, that you can see this, is because you can actually toggle these. You can toggle this functionality on and off. So let's, I'm actually going to move the deal ticket here. So in show, if I select open positions, I can toggle the open positions on and off. We can also go look at the working order. Oh, where was our working order? Here's our working order. I can go toggle my working order on and off. I can also toggle all the strikes showing. So you may have noticed I actually did this one at the very beginning of the webinar to sort of make it easier to see, because if you have all your strikes showing here, right? So now I can see all my strikes. It looks pretty messy, but I can see my working order in my open position, and I can see all the strikes and the strike lines going across the screen. And so you can turn that on and off, and then you can turn on the timeline, and that's going to be this little timeline down here at the bottom. All four of the things I just showed you also have hotkeys. So really easy way to always see the hotkeys. They're going to be these little grayed out. So you can see sort of right here where I'm circling my mouse around. So you can see the P, O, S, and T. And I'm really hoping that you guys can see it on your screens. And so if I type in P on my keyboard, that's going to open, or sorry, that's going to hide and bring back my open position, right? I have P for open positions. I have O for my working orders, right? So hiding that. If I click S, and this is probably the hotkey that I use most out of everything. I have this S, so I'll just hit it real quick, and I can see, okay, now I have my strikes back. Now they're all gone. I use this one a lot because the strikes can get super messy on the charts. And so, sometimes I'll bring them up real quick if I want to select a new one. and then I'll turn them back off if I no longer want to see all of them. I just want to look at one specific strike. So I think this is maybe the most useful hotkey on the entire platform. And then we have the T as well. The T is just going to toggle that timeline. So you can see there on the bottom, and just kind of making it dance. So you can do these fun little things, right? And if you're ever forgetting if you ever forget what these hotkeys are, because obviously I sort of have them memorized, and that makes moving throughout the chart a lot easier. If you ever forget what they are, you can go down here and you can see, okay, open position, that's P. There's a little grayed out P, a little grayed out O, S, and T, right? So again, another area I think hotkeys are really, really helpful. I'm going to turn off the stripes again because it just makes it look a lot cleaner. It's a lot easier to actually see. That's going to be, how you actually turn on those open position, working order, strikes, timelines. You also have your price change and your price line here. So the price change and the price line, just super quickly. I know we're getting kind of near the end here. I want to make sure we have enough time to go over really quickly the indicators and technical analysis section. So price changes, that's basically just going to be this. So you can see here you have a bunch of data on both the high and the low for today, as well as the high and the low of all the candlesticks for the entire period of the chart you're looking at. So let me get a better view of this chart again. There we go. So you can see here that the high period of this entire period is going to be kind of right here, and that should line up right about 44.17, 44.18, right? So you have the high and the low of the entire period. Just kind of a quick reference on the chart for those data points, so you can hide and show those. And then the price line is just going to be this line that comes off. So see, there's a very faint blue line that comes off the current price. That's going to be the price line. Oop, there we go. So that blue line, you can toggle that on and off as well. So pretty much everything on the platform you can toggle off. You can make your chart look very, very simple, and you can make it look overly complex, depending on really what you want to see and the information you want provided to you on that chart itself. Moving on down, we have our layout. So I'll go through this one pretty quickly, but it is pretty helpful. Basically, if you always like using the same indicators, like let's say I always use the exponential moving averages, and I always use, actually I think this is just a simple moving average that I have displayed, but I always use that, and I always use I always use MACD, right, the moving average convergence divergence. I can go ahead and I can actually save this layout. So if I save this, and let's call it Adam's cool layout, right? I can save this, and now if I come back in, or I can maybe exit out of these. Let's say I'm trading a knockout on, I don't know, nat gas. I can go select this, and if I go to apply, I can, Adam's cool layout, I think. I already forgot what I called it. I can say apply Adam's cool layout, and you can see it, or it applies the moving average and the moving average convergence divergence directly back onto the chart itself. So if you always have a certain setup that you like to use, this is super useful for actually being able to save that setup, apply it again when you actually get back in really quickly, and especially if you just have certain indicators that you like using all the time. I am going to jump back over though to our US 500 binary here for the duration. I'm just going to take off the MACD just for the rest of this real quick. And then if you want to delete that layout, if I don't want Adam's cool layout anymore, I can go ahead and I can delete that. We have our customized appearance. We are almost through the end of the almost to the end, where we'll talk about some of the indicators a little bit more depth here. The customized appearance section, very quickly, just going to be customizing your appearance. You can change the bodies of the candlesticks. I usually end up doing, we just had Mardi Gras this week. I went to school down in New Orleans, so if you have any New Orleans out there, know you guys are probably still partying a little bit. So maybe I want to do Mardi Gras colors right now. I have my yellow, my purple, and my green. There we go. I have my Mardi Gras colors on the chart. So you can go ahead, you can change them to whatever you want, right? Yeah, just customize the appearance. You can customize it through for all of the different all the different candlestick types individually too. You also have the show grid. So see this grid on the background, you can toggle that on and off. You can toggle the wall. Can't talk sometimes. You can toggle the watermark. And the watermark is going to be, this US 500. Basically, you put the actual watermark of the market you're trading behind the platform itself. Sorry, behind on the background. And then also you can kind of reset it to default. So now my beautiful Mardi Gras colors have gone back to my normal red and green colors. And that's going to be all, you can reset the default, so you can do that for any of the styles there. And then we have export chart. So export chart, it's basically just going to export a picture of the chart that you have. Going to pop up at the bottom of the screen here. And it's basically just going to create a PNG image file that you can use. So you can save this if you have something that, I don't know, there's a setup that you really like using that you want to send to somebody. You want to show, I don't know, sharing some sort of setup that you have, or if you have something that you're not sure of what you're seeing and you need to send it over to customer service to kind of ask them a question about it, this might be a pretty easy way to actually just really quickly export it without like manually taking a screen grab with screen grab software that you have on your computer. So that's going to be everything in this panel here. There's a couple little extra bits of functionality. We're probably going to get right up to noon on the functionality. So I'm just going to keep going through that. So stick around if you do have time to do that. So the last couple bits of functionality, there's one here, and I think you may have noticed me using it a couple times during this webinar to actually show what's happening here. So it's this little button here. This little button here is going to be, basically it just says latest price. And if you're way off the chart and you don't know where it is, clicking latest price, it will bring you back to where the latest price on the chart is. Right, and that's pretty self-explanatory, but I think what a cooler bit of hidden functionality with this is, so as you see here, as I zoom in and zoom out, the chart is resizing to what I want, right? Basically, it's resizing to show the entire chart itself, right? So as I zoom in, you can see it's sort of moving in, moving out. It's kind of expanding and contracting, basically to keep the entirety of the charting showing itself. If I kind of pull up and down on the chart or move it around, now if I zoom in and zoom out, you can see it's no longer kind of keeping that. It's no longer auto zooming, basically is what we call it. So as you can see, I zoom in, I zoom out. It's no longer auto zooming to the entirety of the chart. How I get that back, if I hit that latest price, it's again going to turn the auto zoom back on. So it's a little bit of hidden functionality, but I think it's super helpful. Just because if you zoom in, zoom out, it is going to allow you to sort of auto zoom and kind of toggle the auto zoom on and off if you want it or if you don't want it on. And then one other thing that I do always like to point out, earlier when we were looking at our quick chart, little hamburger menu drop down, there's also another option here that says tear off chart. If you hit this, you're going to be able to actually tear your chart off. So it brings the chart off into a new window. What I like doing with this, and I'm kind of going to throw this up here, and I'll show you really quickly I'm going to just move really quickly here to show you this, but it'll make sense in a second. I'm just going to randomly pull up a bunch of, randomly do this for a couple different markets. We'll just do 2 right now because I don't want to do a ton of them. But you can do this I do this with like a second screen quite a lot. You can sort of set up your screens. So set up your screens, and if I want to look at a couple different markets at the same time, I can customize my screens, and I can put a couple more at the bottom, and I can look at a bunch of different markets that I want to look at the same time. I can monitor all of them, and I can also pull up, if I just click here, I can pull up deal tickets as well on the same little torn off screens. So this is how I like using these. You can tear the screen off, you can move it around, you can put it on a second monitor, you can monitor the markets, you can also just like go and look at the price ladder itself, and you can hide the chart. So very often, I know I'm doing this pretty quickly, but very often I'll just have a setup like this where I have a lot of different price ladders, and I can go in and say, okay, I can watch like the 2-hour US 500, the 2-hour small cap, and just see how they're all moving sort of at the same time. So I think that's super useful. I use that functionality a lot, and it's probably the best way to go in and actually customize your screen and show a lot of different markets at the same time. All right, so that's going to be most of the functionality itself. I really hope, I don't think I'm forgetting anything. Um, without further ado, let's go over really quickly. We'll go over both exponential moving average, and we will go over RSI, relative strength index. So um, let's go back and, we've been on indices for a while. We'll go over and do some Forex here. So let's do dollar yen, maybe. Where is this? I can't see where dollar yen is. Oh, there we go. Just past it. All right, so let's bring up like a dollar yen contract here, and I'll hide all of these sections. Take away the moving average. All right, so we have our dollar yen contract. We're sitting here looking at this, and if I want to go into an indicator, so there's a couple indicators. These are ones that I think are a little bit more easy to understand, and that's going to be, first of all, exponential moving average. So what we showed on our screen before with those three lines, that's going to be a simple moving average. A simple moving average is very basically just takes the average, over a period as it goes, right? Just averages that movement. The exponential moving average, though, basically weights the more recent periods, gives more recent periods a higher weight in that moving average, right? So it favors what's happening recently, favors more what's happening recently in the market as opposed to what's happened a while ago in that sort of moving average calculation. So when I click on it, you'll see I get three lines here, right? And if I go down and look at the bottom left, we'll see the default for this is 20, 50, and 100. What does that mean? Well, it's basically saying it's taking a 20 period, 20 sort of candlestick periods, right? 50 periods, 100 periods, and it's saying giving you the moving average over those periods. And what you can do with this is you can look for when these periods cross as a sort of indicator of when you might want to get in or get out of a position. So generally, a bullish signal, an upward signal that you can get from this, and I think we can see one right here, right? Actually, this is bearish. So when a shorter term moving average crosses above a longer term moving average, that can generally be seen as a bullish signal, as an upward sort of market signal, right? Because with the if the moving average for the shorter period, right, is going up and going above the moving average for the longer period, you're basically saying, okay, the moving average is sort of rising, right? What we can actually see here is a bearish signal in the market, right? So if the shorter period moving averages, exponential moving averages, cross below the longer period exponential moving averages, generally that's going to be a bearish signal. So as we can see here, right, this yellow line right here, this is the 100-day. So if we go in here, we see this is the 100-day exponential moving average, is this yellow one. The 50-day exponential moving average is the slate blue color, and this 20-day is the light purple color. And as we see right here, the 100 period crosses the 20 period right here, and the 100 period also crosses the 50 period right here. So generally, that's going to be a bearish trading signal, a downward trading signal in the market for these exponential moving averages. So I hope that, that was just a super quick crash course into what the exponential moving averages are. But that's what you want to be watching for a lot of the time. So not only is it just a moving average that is more weighted towards the more recent trends of the market, but you can also look for those crossing periods in the moving averages to give you signals on when you might want to, more bullish signals for the underlying market or more bearish signals, more downward signals for the underlying market as well, when those cross either, when the shorter periods cross above, bullish, when the longer periods cross above, or the shorter periods go below the longer periods, that's generally going to be a bearish signal. And the other one that I did want to go over super quickly here is RSI, relative strength indicator, or relative strength index, I think is technically the correct term. I'm actually not even sure if we have if this is a good one to sort of look at here. I can I can manipulate a little bit. The relative strength index is going to be something that gives you, it kind of tells the relative strength of the market, and really what you're looking for is looking for these overbought and oversold signals here, right? So basically, it looks over like a 14-day, I think is the default, a 14-day period, yeah, or 14 periods. So these are 14 kind of candlestick periods, right? And what it looks for is it looks for the very, very basics. I'm not going to get into how exactly it's calculated, but very basically, what you want to be looking for are you have this 70 is going to be the top, right? The kind of 70%. If this line crosses over the 70 level that you have here, generally that's going to be a overbought signal. And an overbought signal will generally be saying that the market might go ahead and start moving down because RSI is a momentum indicator. So generally it's saying, okay, the market right now is currently being overbought. Maybe it's a good bearish time for the market coming forward. And on the bottom, that sort of 30 line here, so you can see the 70 line and the 30 line. If it dips below that 30 line, that's going to be an oversold indicator, right? It's going to say the market's oversold. Generally, maybe the market moves back up. As these move up and down, if they go above, you'll see this barely touch this 30 point here, and you can see the line turns green. If it goes above the 70 or it goes above this top line, the RSI line is going to be red. And so just kind of visual representation, but you can actually see here, we had a overbought signal, or sorry, not overbought, we have an oversold signal on the RSI, and the market did bounce back up a little bit. Obviously, with all indicators, these are not going to be hard and fast. It's not always going to be, the EMA cross, therefore it's going down, or RSI is below 30, therefore it's going to go up. It's not always going to follow that. Indicators are generally just rules that you can sort of look at for what's going on in the market. Just like, this basically technical analysis versus fundamental analysis, with fundamental analysis being things like, world events going on, right? You also can change the RSI indicator. So a lot of times people will change these to like 80 and 20 just to make sure that you're really, if you get a 80 or 20, that's going to be a really overbought or really oversold signal. And I will actually change these though real quick to like 60 and 40, just so you can see what it looks like when they actually cross. Well, looks like we're a lot, but you can see here, it's sort of green when they actually cross, and it's red when it crosses above. So that is really going to be the quick and dirty RSI and EMA explanation. And that's going to be generally everything I wanted to cover in this webinar here today. I know I didn't spend a ton of time on them, but we are a little bit over that hour period, so I just wanted to make sure that we got through to the end, got through everything we wanted to talk about here today. I also did answer a lot of the questions that were coming through, but if you do have any other questions right now, throw them in the chat. I will go ahead and answer those as best as I can. While we do that, I guess there's like a couple other things I can show, just generally on the charts. So we sort of present each chart a little bit different. So, and by present a little bit different, I mean obviously on the binaries, you had the different strikes with the strike lines going across. They kind of had the dotted ones for the unselected ones, the solid line for the selected ones. For the call spreads, we have this visual representation of the floor and the ceiling levels, and it's blue or red based on if you have buy or sell selected. So you can see really clearly what the floor level is, what the ceiling level is on these call spread products. And on the knockouts, we have a similar yet different visual representation on the chart itself. So these are going to be your 4 knockout ranges that you can select, and they're all going to be over here on the left-hand side. And again, you can get a really good visual representation of what the floor is, what the ceiling is, how it relates to where the current market is, and where you might want to get into these markets. So yeah, I think that is really going to be everything I wanted to go over here today. While I do wait for any other questions to come in, I'm going to throw up one more little slide here. Let's change my display settings up. All right, we have, oops, I think I might have accidentally clicked on that. We have our different ways you can get in contact with us. if you do need help, if you have any questions that you're not throwing in the chat right now, but you have later on, maybe you're watching this webinar on our YouTube channel later and you have some questions, you can go ahead and shoot them over to customerservice@nadex.com. I know all of our CS people, they're really, really knowledgeable, so they should be able to help you out with any questions that you have. If you are enjoying Nadex, leaving a Trustpilot review does help us out. So if you have the time to go do that, it really does help to go ahead and leave a Trustpilot review. And then we have all our socials. They're all, all the big ones, all the good ones, Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, etc. YouTube is an important one because this webinar will be up on YouTube a little bit later today. We also have all the other webinars I do. So I do a webinar every single Thursday. It's not always this webinar, so it kind of rotates. We have like kind of a rotating monthly. So I do one on binaries, one on call spreads and knockouts, one on just platform functionality, and then the one today was specifically chart functionality. So definitely feel free to come back. It's every Thursday at 12 Eastern, 11 Central. Come hang out if you like hearing me ramble for about an hour. I really do enjoy doing these. So thanks everyone for hanging out. I'm not seeing any more questions coming in. So I think we will call it at that point. But yeah, thanks again, everyone, for coming, hanging out today. Hopefully this was helpful. And I hope everyone is staying safe out there. The world is, as always, crazy. So stay safe out there and best of luck in all of your trading. Have a good one.